She called herself a real estate agent. She had a downtown Manhattan apartment, a growing circle of politically connected friends, and a laptop she used almost every week to send secret messages to a foreign government. For nearly a decade, the FBI watched her do it, and she never knew. This is a true story. Her name was Anna Chapman. And in 2010, U.S. counterintelligence officials would later admit she came closer to compromising a member of the president's own cabinet than almost anyone in modern American espionage history. By the end of this story, you'll understand exactly how she operated for years without anyone around her suspecting a thing, and why the FBI says the real danger was never the laptop. It was her. Anna Chapman was born Anna Kushchenko in Russia in 1982. In the early 2000s, while living in London, she met and married a British businessman's son, gaining British citizenship through the marriage. The couple divorced several years later. By 2009, using her British passport, she moved to New York City and began building a new life, this time as a real estate agent in Manhattan. She was, by every account from people who knew her, easy to like. Outgoing, attractive, sharp. Within months, she had built real friendships across New York's political and social circles, the kind of access that takes most newcomers years to establish. What almost none of them knew was that Chapman was believed to have been recruited by Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, the SVR, around the year 2000, nearly a decade before she ever set foot in Manhattan. She wasn't operating alone. She was one of 10 Russian intelligence officers living across the United States under deep cover, in a network the FBI would come to call the Illegals Program. Some lived in Boston, some in Northern Virginia, some in Yonkers, New York, and Montclair, New Jersey. Several were married, raising children, holding ordinary day jobs. One even ran a travel agency, all while quietly gathering political, economic, and foreign policy intelligence to send back to what the agents called Moscow Center. The FBI had been watching this entire network for more than 10 years, in an investigation codenamed Operation Ghost Stories, one of the longest-running counterintelligence operations in American history. Agents watched the illegals buy homes, raise families, build careers, all while secretly reporting on U.S. foreign policy discussions, American interpretations of Russian intentions, and military policy debates, patiently, for over a decade, without a single arrest, because the FBI wanted the entire network exposed at once, not just one piece of it. Chapman's own tradecraft was almost impossible to catch using conventional surveillance. Roughly once a week, often on a specific day agents came to recognize as a pattern, she would sit in a coffee shop or a bookstore with her laptop and quietly create a short-range private wireless network. A Russian government official would then drive or walk past outside, close enough for the two devices to connect for a matter of seconds, exchange encrypted data, and disconnect completely. No phone call, no email, no physical exchange of any kind. Just two laptops, briefly close enough to speak to each other in the middle of a crowded American city, dozens of times over more than a year. For months, FBI surveillance teams quietly followed her between at least 6 different locations across Manhattan, documenting the pattern. And according to the FBI's own later public statements, what worried investigators most wasn't what Chapman already knew. It was who she was getting closer to. She had begun moving steadily into more senior political circles. One FBI counterintelligence official later said publicly that Chapman had gotten close enough to a sitting member of the president's cabinet that the concern became serious enough to accelerate the entire operation. That is when the FBI decided to act, and they did it with remarkable precision. Rather than simply arresting her, agents first quietly caused her laptop's wireless connection to malfunction. Then an undercover FBI operative, posing as a contact from her own side, approached Chapman and offered to help fix the technical problem. She accepted the help. That same undercover agent later arranged a second meeting, this time at a Manhattan coffee shop, where he offered her a fake passport with instructions to pass it along to another operative in the network. It was a test disguised as routine tradecraft. Chapman accepted the passport, and in doing so, she handed investigators exactly the evidence they needed. Within days, reporting later revealed something almost fittingly human about how the case accelerated to its conclusion. Chapman made a phone call to her father in Moscow, telling him she suspected she might have been discovered and that she was planning to fly home. That call, intercepted by U.S. authorities, is widely reported to have been part of what pushed the FBI to move immediately rather than wait any longer. On June 27, 2010, in a coordinated series of raids across Boston, Northern Virginia, Yonkers, and Montclair, the FBI arrested Chapman and 9 other members of the network in a single, carefully timed operation. Chapman pleaded guilty just 11 days later, not to espionage itself, but to a lesser charge: conspiracy to act as an unregistered agent of a foreign government. Investigators confirmed that none of the 10 agents had ever obtained an actual classified document, but the years of infiltration, the training, and the intent were never seriously in question. On July 8, 2010, less than 2 weeks after her arrest, Chapman and the other 9 agents were flown to a remote airport outside Vienna, Austria, and exchanged for 4 prisoners held in Russia, in the largest spy swap between the United States and Russia since the height of the Cold War. She never spent a single day inside an American prison. Back in Russia, Chapman didn't disappear into obscurity. She became something closer to a celebrity: magazine covers, a modeling career, a television hosting career on Russian state media. The very program that had just been publicly exposed and dismantled had, in its most visible member, produced a public face for the country that built it. Here is what makes this case different from a typical spy thriller, and why it matters far beyond Chapman herself. Nothing about how she operated required breaking into a building, hacking a secure system, or stealing a single document by force. Her actual tools were patience, charm, and time, becoming a trusted, familiar, likable presence in rooms that most outsiders would never be allowed into in the first place. The FBI didn't catch her because she made a technical mistake with her laptop. They caught her because they had already been watching, quietly, for nearly a decade, waiting for exactly the right moment to move. That is the part of this story that should actually concern you. Not the encrypted laptops, not the spy movie tradecraft. The fact that the most effective tool a foreign intelligence officer has was never a weapon, or a hidden camera, or a piece of software. It was simply being likable enough, patient enough, and present long enough that nobody around her ever thought to ask the obvious question. This is the same pattern behind nearly every successful infiltration operation in modern intelligence history. It rarely looks like suspicion. It looks like friendship. It looks like someone who remembers your name, laughs at your jokes, and seems genuinely glad to see you, right up until the moment federal agents confirm they were never who they said they were. If there's a lesson in Anna Chapman's story, it isn't really about spies at all. It's about access. Access to influence, to institutions, to people in positions of trust is rarely stolen by force. It's given away gradually to whoever seems trustworthy enough to deserve it. The people most at risk aren't the ones guarding classified files behind locked doors. They're the ones who simply enjoy good company and never think to ask why that company arrived so quickly and got so close, so fast. Real trust is built slowly, over years, tested by real difficulty and real time, not by a stranger who seems remarkably easy to talk to from the very first conversation. If someone new in your life grows close unusually fast and seems unusually interested in the people you know and the rooms you have access to, that isn't flattering. It's worth a second look.